The Arna slot machine is officially out of change as Man City destroy Liverpool 3-0 and humiliate them again on the big stage. Today we are going to talk all key points of the match, the drama, the VAR, the penalty controversy as well, and we are going to understand what went wrong for Liverpool, what went right for Man City, and also title race implications off the back of this. Let's kick it straight off. Jamie, obviously we've got to come to you first. Give us your thoughts on the win. Are you absolutely buzzing?
Look, that was a great win, and what a way to go off Pep's 1,000th game as as manager. So, it's no easy feat, and then you get a big, tough game, and you as well, Jordan and you, Reese, will know the 1,000th game doesn't always go to plan if we're talking Wenger sort of style with it. So it was one where you're like, oh, why have we got Liverpool in this game? Kind of thing. You just think you wanted a nice home easy game, just to sort of the 1,000th game can just be a nice sort of occasion. But it wasn't in terms of fixture wise. But the actual performance we put in was very good, and probably I'd say probably the best we had this season. And it's a time to do it when you're playing. Well, it's kind of like in a nearly a way of a must-win game when you're seeing the Arsenal slip up on the weekend the day before. You've got, and then you're playing the team that really everyone's expecting them to be in the title race more than yourselves. So it was a big occasion, and yeah, it was a great win really, and great performance as well.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of how Liverpool have been in recent games, like it's one of those games that it doesn't matter. If Liverpool are out of form, you still know Liverpool can and will show up on their day. So you can't underplay uh, how big this result is for Man City, in my opinion. Like to do it in such a well, maybe dominant result, maybe not a dominant fashion, but the bottom line is 3-0 in beating your title rivals arguably 3-0 who were favourites of the Prem. Like that's a massive win. And yeah, Pep 1,000 is just a nice little cherry on the top, to be honest. Um, and suddenly, I will get into it in terms of the title race, but suddenly this whole narrative of Arsenal are going to run away with it. You're looking at the table, going, hold up, is that the case, or are we completely underplaying Man City in this whole because you had a rough start? Have we just completely ignored Man City altogether? Um, but I guess before we get into that, we've got to talk about some of the decisions, the controversy. I think with the penalty, we'll start with that. I guess we all had slightly different opinions. Um, you know, I think I said I don't think it was a pen. I thought it was harsh. Jamie said it was blatant pen. Nothing to do with you being a City fan. Reece said the keeper's an idiot. So let's get into that. Reece, we'll come to you. The penalty, was it a penalty for you? And what on earth was the keeper doing?
Yeah, it was a penalty to me. I think it looks, everyone screams penalty when you can see it first of all on TV. However, when you watch it again on VAR, it's not quite as simple as that. When you do watch it, you see his knee, take him out. You may think it's soft, you may think it's fair, but that was my overarching argument was what I said is I'd be more furious about why my keeper is attempting a slide tackle right there. At least try and go out and catch it. And I think he was very reckless and he was punished for that, and I'd say rightly so. Like I said, we may say it's only the knee, but he still touched him. And it had to be a penalty. But like I said, it's all good complaining about it. Arne Slot should be complaining about why his goalkeepers had a rush of blood to the head there and done that, because if he would have probably stayed more towards his goal, there might not have been a threat. But as we know, it didn't really matter because they ended up missing it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you got to credit Doku as well, right? Because he's put himself in that position. He's made the keeper make that error regardless. And I think whether we think, for me, I thought he puts his foot. Every striker does it, to be fair. So I'm not slating Doku by any means, but you see the contact come in, you put your foot in there, you're not moving that foot, you're going down. If they touch you or not, you're going down. And we don't always see it given as a penalty, is what I will say. And I've definitely seen that same decision play out where it's not a penalty. So I thought it was soft, but Reece, when you put it like that, where you know, regardless of what you think is a pen, the keeper is an idiot because he's given the ref the decision to make, and it looks bad. Um, so yeah, obviously it didn't matter in the end because he missed, but yeah, keeper's got to do better. But Doku deserves credit for forcing that error, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, Doku tore him apart. And that was clever play. Simple as that. You can argue, oh, but if he knows he's going to go down, that's cheating. But if a player goes down honestly, there how many times we've seen it where they don't get it. So sometimes they have to make more of a meal of it to show that there's been contact, whether you like it or not. That's how the game is, and that's how you know, tactically evolve your game.
I really don't see where the point of what we're saying is like he's kind of played for the penalty. He's taken on the goalkeeper. He's done the exact same. If you watch Doku, he will do the same sort of legs sort of sticking out to go one way and then goes the other way. You'll see him do that countless of time, even for his goal, for example. He does that versus the keeper. The keeper touches him with his foot and his knee, and we all can admit he's nowhere near the ball, and he's got an open goal. Well, not an open goal, but he's got a very good chance of scoring. So I don't see how it was never seen as a penalty. If the keeper touches the ball, then there's a bigger argument, in my opinion. I just don't see any sort of way you're saying this is soft. If your keeper is making a tackle, doesn't win the ball, and the player goes down, and has made contact with the player, it's just a foul. It's just always a foul. So I really don't get the whole it's soft. It may not be a penalty when he's made two touches onto him as he's taken him on. Because he's gone past the keeper and he should just then have had a shot where he may have missed because there was defenders on the line. So I'm not saying it's, red card booking or anything like that, but it's clearly a foul and I don't see how it's a debate overall, really.
Not it. To be honest, I wasn't looking at the knee. I was looking at the foot. The foot goes down. The knee doesn't go. I don't know. It's one of them. He's not absolutely wiped him out, has he? Let's be honest.
No, he hasn't wiped him out, but that
I
doesn't
don't
mean
think
it's
it's that
not.
blatant.
It doesn't mean it's
But
not a foul.
no, I mean,
It
look,
doesn't have to be, knee-high kind of tackles to be blatant and a penalty.
yeah. If there's the slightest contact, then yes, it's a pen because he's not on the ball. But I was looking at the foot. The foot goes down, and it doesn't hit the foot. Maybe the knee hits the knee. Maybe I'm looking at the foot, but it's one of them. But then Haaland missed it anyway.
Yeah, it didn't matter
Um,
in the end, so I think that's why less people will talk about it.
yeah, exactly. Uh, let's move on then to the other potential controversy: the Liverpool disallowed goal. We'll start with you, Jamie. Can you defend this one?
So, in the meantime, so this was down the end where I sit at City. When it happened, I had no idea why it was disallowed. I thought somehow maybe the cross had gone off the pitch or anything. I couldn't see what they'd given because I think the flag went up like it was. Well, it was flag went up for offside. I thought it was a flag that went off for a goal kick, for example. So that's how oblivious I kind of was, and I'm down the exact same end of it. From looking at the replay, the argument, and I did say at the time I thought it shouldn't have been disallowed. The only argument they can say is Robertson is stood next to the goalie and has ducked, but he's not in the eye line of Donnarumma to stop him saving that. So I don't think he saves it whether Robertson's there or not. I guess the rule is, and this is why I think they disallowed it, is they're saying that he was distracting the keeper by being there and ducking out the way. And then that's where I think the problem is in the rule. That's the problem. I think the referee's actually got it right per the rule, but I don't agree with the rule. If that makes sense. I think he should be offside if he stood in front of Donnarumma blocking his eye line, or he's actually tried to play the ball. Like if Robertson's tried to header that, then that's a clear offside to me. But he's not. He's tried to get completely out of the way of it and not blocking Donnarumma for it to be a goal. So I would in my opinion, it should be a goal, but because of the rules, the way that it's worded and everything, that's why it's disallowed. So I'd be fuming if I was a Liverpool fan. I'd be fuming at that. Really,
Yeah,
that's the only argument I have for it.
yeah, I think that's probably fair. Yeah, it's just a terrible decision. It's just maybe that is the reason they disallowed it because of some BS rule, but like it's just not like he's not in his way. Donnarumma's at full stretch. It's going in regardless. And I think this is a wider discussion, but at some point, you just common sense has to apply. I know, and Reece, I know what you're going to say already, so you can say it in a second about football fans being fickle. But it is true, right? If it was the other way around, we'd say, oh, you've got to stick to the rules, but the rules make it, well, the rules don't make it like common sense at time. Common sense doesn't apply in that case because it doesn't impact him. I agree with what you're saying, Jamie. Like if he blocks or he ducks or he tries to head it, fair enough. That is distracting the keeper. But Donnarumma is at full stretch and he's not saving it, so it has to be a goal for me.
Yeah, it's quite a complex decision, isn't it? I think I do agree if this was in again, if this was City scoring this goal, everyone would be calling, Liverpool, oh, they got away with it, etc. I do think there is an agenda there. But I mean, it's not that deep. I mean, like it's Andy Robertson, he instinctively ducks, and you've seen where that has been allowed, where they have given goals. You've seen it before where they move out the way or something along those lines. But at the same time, he is also offside. I mean, we can really pull this into the wire and say, well, how can Donnarumma not see it? Is this tall? Blah blah blah. But that's really irrelevant. Who really cares? Um, yeah, I mean, I can see why it was disallowed, but I could see why it would have been given as well. I mean, I suppose the argument to that is if this happens again in the season, you have to disallow the goal. Otherwise, that's going to cause another row over the VAR. Whether it happens in the season, it remains to be seen. It probably will with one particular game. It might not be a high profile game, but it will. But I can see why it's given. I can see why you wouldn't give it. I don't think it was that deep. I think does it change the game? Potentially. I still think Liverpool would have gone on to have lost yesterday. But yeah, I can see the frustrations from Liverpool, but I can see again, why it was a disallowed goal.
Yeah. Well, let's move on in terms of the actual game. Regardless of decisions, Liverpool still weren't effective enough. They still didn't score. Um, so you can point the finger and moan about the decisions, but at the end of the day, they still got slapped 3-0, right? So if you look at the stats of the game, possession was fairly even, right? So there wasn't that control you normally see from a City side at home in terms of just dominating possession. Liverpool created more big chances, which sounds ridiculous to say when you lose 3-0. So why did City beat them 3-0, I guess is the question. Why did they ultimately just destroy them? What did they get right tactically?
So one point to mention there, where the sort of percentages of the possession is City aren't doing that this season. When we played United earlier on in the season, we beat them. I think that was 3-0 as well. We didn't have United had more possession than us. So City of now, we're not actually the side that is controlling the possession, slow build up play here and there. We're a bit more direct, and we're feeding in Haaland more, and sometimes actually going a bit more defensive when the other team's got the ball and letting them have the ball and thinking, how do we break us down? So tactically, I think that's exactly what we're doing. And you saw it obviously when we played Arsenal, we defended really deep with the 1-0 sort of victory. We didn't defend as deep versus Liverpool, but Liverpool gave the ball away a bit more sloppy. It gave us more of the ball to then go and attack them, and they had spaces and gaps pretty much all over the pitch. And then I think the biggest key was Doku against Bradley. And Doku had him on strings. It's actually a favourable fixture for Doku because before I saw the talk of Liverpool fans go, thank God we don't have to defend Trent after being taken on 20 times in a game. But unfortunately, Bradley was pretty much the exact same, and Doku was running rings around him. They even put Gravenberch to go and help him out. He was nowhere near him. And then Doku, I think, showed how good he was in the game with his goal. Like the ease he went past Konate and then whipped it in. Keepers at full stretch and nowhere near him. I think City isolated certain players and just got it completely right. And then defensively, O'Reilly had Salah completely in his back pocket the whole time. Nunes had Wirtz in his back pocket, I think, for 80. I think Wirtz had one good take on during the whole game. And then two City players took him out. It was kind of, that bit of roughness and dark arts in a way. He's got one good thing about it: shut it down, don't let it happen again. And I think City just did that all over the pitch, controlled it when they needed to. But you said Liverpool had more clear-cut chances. I think I can only remember one, but that might just be my memory. But there was nothing that I thought troubled Donnarumma except for the disallowed goal from the corner. Really, that was it.
Yeah, I mean, weird week for Bradley because I thought he'd get rinsed in the week against Vinny Jr., but he did unbelievably well, man of the match performance. And then he's gone, Doku's absolutely outplayed him. So a bit of a weird week for Bradley. But yeah, Doku, I mean, look, I think this is now, I'd be pretty happy with him and pretty excited if I was a City fan right now because he's a player who for the last years looked like a bit meh. Yeah, nice run, bit of skill, but doesn't really do anything. And now, in the last few months, we're starting to see a real, serious player now. Unbelievable goal. The take-ons are actually getting somewhere, and he's getting assists. Like, if he carries on like that, he could potentially now be one of the best wingers in the league over the course of this season. So, I think it's very exciting because there was a lot of doubt, I think, whether he'd actually be that good or not. So he's a big part of the reason you won yesterday, to be honest. Um, as for Liverpool, though, I mean, it's just not good enough. Again, Isak obviously not there. Salah just looks. I don't want to say he played for the contract, but it's looking that way at the minute. Um, Season of his life last season when everyone thought he was past it, and then now he looks past it. I'll be honest. It just is shocking to see. Maybe that's really a harsh, and Liverpool fans won't like it, but you've got to call it as you see it. And based on this season, he's been a shambles. Florian Wirtz, I mean, wow. I think Florian Wirtz still thinks it's Halloween. The amount he's been ghosting, absolute disgrace, disgraceful signing, and he's just not lived up. He's not done anything, in my opinion, over these last few months to justify anything north of 100 mil. So yeah, Liverpool, it's tough conversations, really tough conversations because no one seems to be working out. Ekatike again, been the best signing, didn't really do anything yesterday. I think it's really worrying because now Liverpool suddenly, from us doing a podcast saying there's not going to be a title race, they're in eighth position. They've got worse form over the last 5 games than West Ham, which is a sackable offence in itself, and Manchester United are above them.
Mm.
Like it's seriously worrying.
We're seeing City and Liverpool seem to have swapped places. If you think about it, Liverpool were all conquering in the league, didn't look, and City were all over the place. They'd have a revival, then they'd lose again. Now it seems to have changed and swapped around where Man City are looking like the unstoppable force and Liverpool, well, they're certainly a movable object. Um, it's it's a strange one because yeah, I mean Conor Bradley was fantastic against Real Madrid. Doku turned him inside out. Um, I think I remember saying to you yesterday during the game, I said City are doing the right thing by going all out against Liverpool from the very beginning, because you don't want to let Liverpool settle down and try and find a way because they've got the players to do that regardless of what their form is saying. And City went straight for it, and that was basically how the game was set from the start. I think Liverpool had very good chances, but if you'd have given them another 90 minutes, they still wouldn't have scored. It just didn't look like it was going in. And it probably shows why when they've played against maybe less quality opposition, those goals have gone in and maybe they've saved their blushes a little bit. Um, yeah, there's a lot of questions to be asked at Liverpool. I mean, look, last time they won the league in 2020, they put up a pretty poor defence the season after, and that was under Klopp. So, I don't think they can really be on slots back at this moment in time. I mean, I was critical of. I mean, I liked Arne Slot as I mentioned last season. I still put Liverpool to finish third this season. I would be, I was critical of his cup performances at Liverpool. To be perfectly honest, I thought you've masked a very yes, you still got to win the league, but you're masking a very poor quality of it. Um, and the cup performances were very poor. We saw in the League Cup final against Newcastle, the FA Cup against Plymouth, and of course the Community Shield as well. Um, I don't think they've been good enough, and I think those are starting to come to the forefront a little bit now in the league, which isn't a good sign at all. Um, but I don't think that should take away just how good Man City are or were in this case. Haaland has re-energized himself and become a monster again. Phil Foden looked unreal. Bernardo Silva, back to his clever self. It's scary. It's scary at the moment for City, and they're definitely breathing down Arsenal's necks.
Could I just say quickly on the sort of what you mentioned there with retaining the title? People always say retaining the title is harder than winning it initially, and there's not many sides that have retained the title. Like United have done it fair few times. To be fair to them, City have done it a few times, and Chelsea have done it once. That's it. Like Arsenal never done it under Wenger when they were, one of the top two teams at least in the league. Liverpool are showing how hard it is because when they won it with 99 points, they weren't properly in the title race for the next year, and you've tried so hard to get to that title, it can take it out of you, and it's hard to bounce back, and that could be the problem for Liverpool this year. Whereas sort of like next season, they could be completely back at it. And that's the sort of, I don't know if that is the sort of factor into it. But yeah, there's trouble for Liverpool, but it's not as bad as it seems. I think a few sort of players improving, a small amount of them as well, they'll be right back at it. Because defensively is where their biggest issue is, because they've conceded 17 goals. If you only really look at the bottom, five, nearly everyone's at least got the better. I think they've got better defensively. Fulham have got a better defensive record. Newcastle have, Everton have, and that's 15th, 14th, and 13th. So that's really the concern, I'd say. And a sort of a better Canate performance, a better Bradley performance, a better Robertson performance, and it's not as bad for Liverpool, I think. But I'll be honest, they were rubbish against City. I don't think they would have scored in another 90 minutes, really. So there is a problem, but I don't think it's that much of a concern. I think it's a slight concern for me.
Well, let's talk about Haaland just quickly because we've said this. I said yesterday, you need to start changing your badge, like you need to change your team name. Obviously, just a Haaland FC. There is no, I don't want to say one man team, but he has literally scored basically all your goals, which I, we'll get onto the conversation in terms of like title race implications and stuff. Is that doable? Like, is that sustainable? Where one player just scores basically all your goals? Like, if Haaland goes down right now, can City do anything realistically? That's the question.
Probably not win the title. I'll be honest. If Haaland gets a big injury, no. But I do think you have to also realise the tactics are get as many chances for Haaland as possible. That's what I think people are sort of underestimating. That is the tactic. That is the tactic. I want the ball out wide to Doku to go down the line and cross it in for Haaland. All the crosses are going where Haaland's going. Haaland normally runs to the back post for it. He never really comes into the sort of near post, more like Aguero used to do. Aguero went near post. Haaland seems to likes to go back post and sometimes come in the middle. And if you look at all of our crosses, they are all like that. So the team is built for Haaland to score as many as possible. But if we want to win this league, Foden has to score more, Doku has to score more, Cherky, Reinders, González. I want more goal scorers because you can't rely on one person the whole season. But you've got Marmoush coming back. City have always had to play Haaland this season because Marmoush has been out. really, and it's been fine playing in the cups with a sort of a false nine kind of tactic, but you can't do it in the Premier League with the team we've got at the moment. So I think Haaland will score a lot of goals this season, and I hope if he continues, he's going to break his own record for the most goals. But that doesn't mean we win the league because other people have to chip in.
Yeah, I think when you're doing well, it's never going to be a concern, right? But you can just see if, Haaland disappears for 2, 3 games, which is, it is possible, or he gets injured, suddenly the whole conversation tactics will have to shift. Um, Go on, Reese.
No, yeah, I mean, I get that. I mean, they're playing to their strengths at this moment in time. They didn't play to their strengths last season, so the strength should be give the ball to Erling Haaland. He's the best centre forward in the world, so why wouldn't you give it to him? The guy only needs one chance and he'll score. That's how good he is. That's how lethal he is. He's something that other teams do not have. So they're going to play it. Yes, he has to stay fit, but I also think when he does go, they'll change tactically and play around like that. And I think this game was testament as to why City will go on to win this league. This is a changed City. I know they may have lost to Villa recently, but I still think they're more capable of weathering a storm. And I think this we all know it here that Arsenal will throw it away themselves. So we don't need to worry. City don't need to worry about that. They just need to focus on what they're doing.
Yeah, well, let's conclude by looking at the title race then. I mean, every time we think a team's going to run away with it and win it comfortably, there seems to be some drama and it seems to change. So maybe it's just naive at this point to really rule out any team for the title race, but the gap is now 4 points. The goal difference is level. And suddenly you're looking going, is the Arsenal bottle just come a little bit earlier than normal? Are City going to do it again, as they've done it many times and go on a stupid winning streak? I think suddenly in this weekend, although it's just 2 results, I think the whole narrative has shifted. And I know, Reece, you weren't backing Arsenal for the league regardless, but even the optimistic Arsenal fans are probably a bit nervous after that weekend, I reckon.
No, they will be. Because Arsenal's defense has been like a London bus recently. You wait all this time for them to concede a goal and then two come along at once, and that's exactly what happened. Look, most Arsenal fans would have taken a draw at the Stadium of Light at the weekend, and it's completely understandable why. They were always going to get in Arsenal's face. However, to concede the goal so late, yes, Sunderland threw everything at it, was frustrating, and you saw a team that looked slightly rattled. Now, of course, how does that affect their mentality after the international break? Because they go up against Spurs and then it's Chelsea. Two very difficult games. Do I see them getting 6 points out of that? No, I don't. So City are in a position now where they can capitalise on where Arsenal have probably shown a bit of nerves. A bit. Arsenal will have to show what they're made of in the next game. But as we know, Spurs have a very good away record. So they're probably playing Spurs at their worst possible time, really, from what they've had. If they played Spurs a couple of weeks ago, it'd been probably a solid home win. So Arsenal are, of course, in a little bit of a shaky ground, whereas City are starting to roll and get some steam behind them. So yeah, this is where probably the month of November becomes probably the most important for a title race, and nobody would ever say that. So yeah, interesting.
I think the disappointment from the sort of Arsenal fans is if you looked at the fixtures this weekend, right, we're playing Sunderland, okay, it's away and Sunderland are doing well, but Arsenal should still be, well, they still probably were they would have been the favourites, the bookies' favourites, and then you see City play Liverpool. You're arguably the two title contenders, so that's where it's disappointing to lose ground on one of them because they'd expected to beat Sunderland and then gone, right, let's hope for a draw. They both drop points. We build even further ahead of both teams. And because they dropped points and saw City win comfortably, that's where the sort of worry will come in. But I find it funny because it's just showing, if it was the fans on the pitch, the heads are closely going and they would bottle it. I know the players aren't the same, but the fans, you can see how nervous some of them are getting. But in terms of City in the title race, it's way too early to say who's in and, well, to say who's out anyway. Because Chelsea are 2 points behind City. It's 6 points. It's 2 games. You've got to play Arsenal soon. You're not fully out of it. I said I don't believe you're consistent enough to win it, but actually, City aren't that consistent at the moment. I know we've had a great win and we've had quite a good spell, but I still don't think we're consistent enough. Liverpool's shown they're not. Arsenal will slip up from time to time. Like them drawing to Sunderland, it happens. These games happen. But so I think you can't rule anyone out yet. But I'd still say you've got to say Arsenal are the favourites at this moment in time because they seem still the most consistent. They didn't lose, by the way. They only drew. City lost to Villa. It's
Mm.
them sort of things. So I don't think you can completely rule them out. Rule
Yeah,
anything out,
it
sorry.
was. Yeah, it was a good comeback by Arsenal as well to get to the 2-1. So, Jamie thinks Arsenal are still favourites. I'm going to agree. I still think Arsenal, a 4 point gap is decent enough. I'd still say they're favourites in my opinion. Reese?
I think City have been in this situation before where they've been the chaser, and I think Arsenal have been in this position before where they've been in commanding position, thrown it away. They've done it well pretty much for the last 3 seasons now. So I don't see any reason why that is going to change. What will prove Arsenal's mettle is these next 2 games. So they're going to have to prove that. City, the reality is when you say the pressure's off them, like I said, they're the chaser. They'll wait to pounce at any opportunity and they still have to play Arsenal at the Etihad. So Arsenal need to make sure they get points in the bank quickly. Um, but yeah, I still think City are going to go on to win this thing. I just think it's inevitable. Haaland is inevitable. They're a machine, and in a league where everyone, yes, Arsenal are consistent, and the rest of the league might not be, but I still think City are the best team, and they might as well capitalise on everyone else's failures.
All right, there you have it. That is all we got time for. As always, we want to hear your thoughts as well down below. But as always, like, comment, and subscribe. You know the drill.